You're listening to the B3 Radio Network, Southern California's internet talk station. Visit us online at b3radionetwork.webs.com. Subscribe to our podcast feed on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Twitter, and blip.tv. The following broadcast contains comments and opinions that belong to the individuals who presented them. They do not represent the views of B3 Production Studios, the B3 Radio Network, any sponsor or paid advertiser. Any story, picture, document, or video used in the following presentation is not directly intended to offend or cause damage to any one group, individual, or company. B3 Production Studios and the B3 Radio Network would like to thank you for your cooperation. Please enjoy the following presentation. Thank you.
In a world where car companies are numbered in the hundreds, Chevrolet, Pontiac, Honda, Mitsubishi, GMC, Lotus, Toyota, Acura, Ford, Lexus, Jeep, you need to know the facts, the latest information for everything about cars, trucks, motorcycles, and ATVs. This is Speed.
That's right. Welcome back to this episode of Speed, the only show about cars, trucks, motorcycles, and you guessed it, ATVs. I am your host, Brian Bonbarios. Thank you for tuning in to Speed right here on the B3 Radio Network, Southern California's internet talk station. Don't forget, you can always call the show and leave a voicemail if you want at 626-532-7154, or you can always email the show anytime you want at speedradio b3@yahoo.com, or visit the website, since you're already online, right, at b3radionetwork.webs.com. That's b3radionetwork.webs.com. And from there, you can subscribe to our podcast feed via YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Twitter, and of course, blip.tv. We have some great stories here on Speed today. First off, is GM now concerned with its new bestseller? That's right, GM is adding a second shift to one of its plants for the 2013 Cadillac ATS. This is their brand new compact luxury sports sedan, which is going to come out later this year. This is awesome. Check this out. This is the front of the brand new 2013 Cadillac ATS. It is a beautiful, beautiful car, pictured here in black. It is a compact car that is in the luxury category. This is one of the few times, and actually a first for Cadillac, where they're going to make a compact luxury sedan. Cadillac has really not ventured into this market, and a lot of other American car companies and other car companies in America really haven't ventured into luxury compact cars. It's just something that didn't sell 20 years ago. That's why, if you notice, Cadillac has always had big, gigantic, long. The joke is that they're land boats. They're cars that are huge cars that have huge tires and that suck up a lot of gas. Well, since everyone's going green and everything's going smaller, why not luxury cars? Actually, here's the front. So again, here's the front of the brand new Cadillac ATS for 2013, and actually here's the rump. Here's the back of the Cadillac ATS right there on the racetrack. Here's some other great pictures right here just on the bottom. And so, it's clear that GM has expectations for the 2013 Cadillac ATS. They have very high hopes for this car, with the new ATS set to take on to be what they call the king of the luxury compacts later this year. Cadillac has confirmed that GM has added a second shift with 600 new workers at its Michigan plant in order to meet high expectation demands for the new Caddy. Now, so this is the great news too. Not only are they making an awesome car, I mean, it looks great. It's a very, very beautiful, beautiful car. But the other thing is that they're going to be employing 600 additional workers just to build that second shift for this car. According to a report from a local writer on the Detroit News, GM has already hired about 460 of the 600 employee positions. It's looking to add for its new ATS second shift. It's looking to add about 600, so that's pretty cool. 600 brand new jobs. Now, the other thing too is that GM is very, let's say, conservative with the way they do things. GM likes to do things their way, even if the government or another industry tells them not to. GM is very hard-headed, especially in the 80s, and the late 70s, 80s, and the early 90s. GM did things their way. They didn't like to do it anyone else's way. If the government told them, hey, you need to build something this way or that, GM would go, yeah, we'll think about it. GM has always been pretty much hardball. When they have their hopes and dreams set on a car, they will go at it and they will build it. And so it's very weird when they change direction. And what I mean by that is the 600 workers. In the past, GM has had to lay off people. This has always been the case with GM. They lay off people, and then when they need to rehire some people back to, like in this case, have a second shift for the Cadillac ATS, what they'll do is from those people that they laid off, they'll go back and say, hey, they'll offer them more jobs. They'll go, hey, we need to fill up these certain spots. We laid you off. Would you consider coming back to us to work for us and continue it that way? And most of the time, the workers have no other way to go, so they will return and build on these on the assembly lines. But the thing is that this time GM has decided that for the new 600 positions inside of the factory, they're going with all brand new, fresh faces, young people that are wanting to get into the car industry for whatever reason. It doesn't really state in the story why GM decided not to go with the laid off workers, but instead go with a whole new, fresh of faces for that second shift at the factory. Not exactly sure why they chose that, and it's very rare to see GM change things because they're used to doing things. They've been in business for over 100 years. They're not going to change something if they don't want to by this point. Even if the government does own a big stake in them, they're still not going to do it. But rather pull from the laid-off workers, they're going to hire new workers, and these new workers will be receiving $15 to about $18 an hour, somewhere in that range. That's pretty nice for building cars, plus full benefits from GM. And while Cadillac wouldn't give a specific sales target as for when the ATS might come out or what kind of engines it has, they did tell us that the ATS could become the brand's biggest seller once it's up to full capacity inside of the factory. Now, Cadillac's top seller in 2011 was the SRX crossover. That crossover sold about 56,905 units, just shy of 57,000 cars in 2011 for that one particular model. Cadillac sold a lot more cars than just under 60,000, but they sold for the 2011 year the SRX crossover. And they have the idea that this new ATS car will be Cadillac's new flagship model, I guess. They want to make this one compete with other cars. Now, Cadillac hopes to take on some of the ATS rivals' money. In this case, BMW specifically, the BMW 3 Series. They're really attacking BMW right now by saying that they're going to be undercutting the Cadillac's price by offering a smaller engine. Now, how do you cut costs? Well, you cut costs by doing shortcuts most of the time, but Cadillac is not known for doing shortcuts. They're a luxury car. They're a luxury brand. They're not going to devalue their badge by cutting shortcuts. So what they're going to do is instead of offering what BMW does with a V6 or a V8, Cadillac is going the small green car route with an inline 4, and actually a 2.5 inline 4 to be exact. Probably with direct injection also, I would assume, and also by reducing its curb weight. Now, how that's done, I'm not exactly too sure. The story doesn't divulge too much into that. I'm assuming they're using more aluminum and carbon fiber rather than just the regular metal that they usually do in cars nowadays, but I'm assuming they're doing it that way because, again, it's a Cadillac, so the people that can afford this car can afford the lightweight advantages of having something lightweight like carbon fiber or aluminum pieces inside of a vehicle, which are more costly than just making it out of steel. But then again, you suffer weight and MPG range. Also, this car is supposed to be in the high MPG ranges. Maybe not drastically. Again, it's not a hybrid of any kind. It's not going to be using any power-saving technology besides its inline 4 engine, but by having a smaller body and by having a smaller engine, you should be getting some decent miles per gallon. Again, nothing has been stated otherwise so far, but it is specifically attacking the BMW 3 Series. For the 2013 model year, Cadillac, the ATS that is, will be built next to its brother or sister, whatever you have you, the CTS in July. Now, the CTS is Cadillac's other car that pretty much helped them reinvent themselves in this century. And actually, here's a picture of the of the CTS right here. Here's a 2012 model right here, where the mouse is circling. That one came out in about 2004, and you can see on top these 4 pictures right here are of the new Cadillac ATS, as were its brother right here, the CTS. So those two will be sharing a factory where they will both be manufactured. Now, it is expected to hit dealers in August, this new 2013 Cadillac ATS. And it will have a base price of just shy of $34,000. To be exact, $33,990 will be the starting price for a Cadillac ATS. Now, that's not too bad considering that Cadillacs are very expensive. But since you're getting a smaller car with a smaller engine, hence the price change. For years, the cheapest Cadillac was about $35,000, and that's base with nothing in it. All you get is a radio pretty much inside, and maybe the leather, and a couple of niceties because it is Cadillac. But so it's pretty nice to see a car competing in this price range and in this class category. Cadillac really had not had any involvement in a small car of a luxury compact, that is. American cars tend to not. American car companies in general just have never ventured into that business because it's never sold well here. America has very wide open roads and all that. In Europe, it makes a lot more sense where the roads are more narrow and everything's closer by. But we have a huge country that's very wide, and the stigma in the United States is that when you've made it if you have the big V8 engine with the biggest car. That's sort of the stigma, and that's not going away anytime soon. So Cadillac's trying to reverse that imagery by saying, no, you can have a very expensive small car. And other car companies like Aston Martin have been making the micro car or at least the concept is. Other cars have been trying to do the luxury compact for a little while, but Cadillac is really trying to emphasize that we can do this and we can be the best at it. So good luck to Cadillac for that. Another expensive high-end car company has canceled a certain model, and that would be the Lexus HS250H, canceled in response to poor sales. And I really mean bad, poor sales. Here's a picture of the Lexus HS250H, which was canceled due to very, very poor sales. Lexus has officially killed off the HS250H hybrid sedan after the car posted disappointing sale numbers. Now, the production of the car actually ended in January, but unsurprisingly, well, Lexus isn't going to really call too much attention to that now, are they? But they killed off get this, the car was only 3 years old and then it died. The Lexus HS250H was introduced at the 2009 Detroit Auto Show, the Luxuries division's first dedicated hybrid. So it was just pure hybrid, no powertrains, different differentiations of any kind, just powertrain. One powertrain is hybrid. That's all you get on this car. The HS employed a 147 horsepower, 2.4 liter inline-4 gasoline engine that was also mated with the hybrid portion of it being 141 horsepower electric motor generator with electricity stored in the battery pack, which is probably in the belly of the vehicle. The EPA ratings, which is the MPG, actually weren't that bad. They were 35 city and 34 highway. That's the funny thing, is that when you buy a hybrid or you drive a hybrid, you get worse miles on the highway than in the city, as opposed to the opposite direction when you buy a gasoline engine, where you do better on the highway but worse in the city. But that's what hybrids are meant for. If you're in a city like San Francisco or New York or Los Angeles, something big like that, like Dallas or something like that, then hybrids really do well, and they will help you save gas over a long period of time. That's usually the stigma of what people don't understand, is that a hybrid will not save you money immediately because of the cost difference of buying a hybrid. But anyway, back to the Lexus story, is that the Lexus HS250H was introduced at the 2009 Detroit Auto Show, and they had put a potential to probably sell between 25,000 and 30,000 units annually. So every year they wanted to sell 25 to 30,000 cars of this particular model, but sales never reached that level. In fact, they never reached anywhere close to it. In 2009, their first record sale was about 7,000 cars. That's not really that great. Then in 2010, it peaked to just a little shy of 11,000. And then in 2011, only sold less than 3,000 cars. An email that was stated to all of the workers inside of the company of Lexus, of course no one outside was able to see this memo, was that we didn't really understand our demographic market, and so the car is no longer going to be made. So for that reason, the Lexus pretty much said that their failure with this model was because they already have a hybrid. This car is pretty much the clone of the what's it called, the Toyota Prius. I mean, if you look at the car, here's a picture of the car again. It looks like a Prius. I mean, you can tell it's very lined, it's very formed. It's on the same body as a Prius, as far as my understanding is. And look at the interior right here. It looks pretty much Prii. It is pretty much Prius, except it has a couple of extra niceties that you would probably find in an upscaled version of a luxury car, hence Lexus. Lexus is Toyota's luxury brand. And so for those reasons, for poor sales, Lexus has killed off that particular vehicle and is no longer manufacturing it after 3 years. We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be right back. You're listening and watching The Speed right here, the only show about cars, trucks, motorcycles, and ATVs, only on the B3 Radio Network, Southern California's internet talk station. You're listening to the B3 Radio Network, Southern California's internet talk station. Visit us online at b3radionetwork.webs.com. Subscribe to our podcast feed on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Twitter, and blip.tv. We now return to Speed, the only show about cars, trucks, motorcycles, and ATVs. Only on the B3 Radio Network, Southern California's internet talk station.
I said speed, speed, give me what I need. I said
Welcome back to Speed, only on the B3 Radio Network, Southern California's internet talk station. We have great news for truck enthusiasts this week, and that's because the 2014 Chevrolet Colorado is finally getting refreshed. Now, if you're not familiar with the current generation of the Chevrolet Colorado, which is GM's Chevrolet's division's small pickup truck, their mid-size pickup truck, if you will. Here's actually a picture right here of the 2012 Chevrolet Colorado. For me, it's always been a mixture of bad design. If you look at the front end, it looks like the lamps are reversed. I've just never been too much of a fan of this particular truck. And finally, it is getting refreshed, as in it's going to get a new body styling. Now, the body has not changed since 2004, so it's been almost 10 years, and by the time the new model does come out, it will be 10 years. So it is great to see the new truck, and this is the new truck. Here is the 2014 Chevrolet Colorado. It's great looking aerodynamics. It has a very, very modern Chevy front end with that split horizontal split grille, and it's got a lot of key features from other trucks from the past that Chevrolet has made and manufactured. A little bit more into the story is that the 2014 Chevrolet Colorado is inching toward production this week, as GM, General Motors that is, will break ground today on a plant to expand their Missouri plant, that is, to allow the plant to produce the new midsize truck. Now, we should first note that the pickup in question is the new Chevrolet Colorado, and there it is again. It is a beautiful, beautiful truck compared to the I will call it a lackluster truck, the current Colorado. And so this one right here is just a beautiful truck. It is very aerodynamic. It matches along with the new Malibu, with the new Camaro. It fits in nicely now with the rest of Chevrolet's lineup. Because honestly, the current Colorado looks like it was left behind. It looks like something from last century. It does not look nice to me. And so I'm glad to see this new one in here. The all-new model that will replace the current Colorado and GMC Canyon, which are made in Louisiana. The new Colorado will be based on the international scale. So right now, this Colorado pickup truck is actually available in other markets like Dubai and the Middle East. This truck is already for sale and out in the open. But for whatever reason, GM has halted and has delayed the U.S. version's debut for whatever reason. It doesn't really go much into that. But the latest iteration on sale outside of the U.S. Now, this is what available options are available for the truck outside of the U.S. This is not the U.S. specs. The truck has two Duramax diesel engines. Now, for whatever reason, the U.S. has just never adapted toward diesel unless you're a big trucker or you have an older, heavy-duty pickup truck. Americans and diesel just have not gone together for whatever reason, especially now that diesel is, well, I mean, it used to be cheaper than gas, and then at one point it became more expensive than gasoline. Now it's about the same, but pretty much the general rule is that diesel has been more expensive for years, and so the sales of diesel engines in the United States have been down. But it does have two available diesel engines outside of the U.S. Again, they have a 2.5 liter inline 4 that makes 150 horsepower at 258 foot-pounds of torque, and another engine that's a 2.8 liter engine that's also an inline 4 that produces 180 horsepower at 346 foot-pounds of torque. Now that power is sent through either a 5-speed manual, yes, or a 6-speed automatic transmission. But either way, equipped with either way you want to shift your truck, the truck is available in regular, crew, or extended cabs. And actually, there's a big difference, obviously, between the models of either you want the 2-door, the 2.5-door, or the 3-door. I'm sorry, the 4-door, but there's a difference between 16 to 30 cubic inches on the interior, and that's if you want to go with the short cab or the regular cab or the long cab. As for the American version, though, there is nothing set in concrete yet, as in we don't know exactly what kind of features or what kind of engine specs, either if we're going to get a 4-cylinder, a V6, or a V8, probably not the V8, but I would love to have a small truck like that with a V8, but it probably won't come with a V8. I'm guessing either an inline 4 or a V6, but there's nothing been set in concrete yet. But it is for sure, you do know that the Chevrolet Colorado midsize truck will only be released after GM introduces its full-size pickup trucks. Now, GM has two brands that make their big boy pickup trucks. They're called the Chevrolet Silverado and the GMC Sierra. They are the big trucks, the regular size trucks, the full-size trucks. But those are getting refreshed in 2014. Those body styles for those trucks have been out since 2007, and so they're getting refreshed in 2014. But GM has been concentrating on the big boy trucks because those sell more, and they're more of a game player in the U.S. than a small truck is. Now it's cool because in emerging markets like Dubai or the Middle East, where there's really nothing out there but sand and dirt, you need to have a truck. Car sales are high in the U.S., and that's because we're privileged enough to have roads and areas where a car could actually make sense. But out there in the Middle East and all those areas, those developing markets, developing nations like that, they need to have trucks, 4-wheel trucks at that. This is not an option. Actually, what's interesting is that their sales outside of the U.S. majority are small trucks. Where in the U.S. small trucks have been dwindling. They're not very popular anymore. Actually, Ford last year discontinued its small mid-sized truck. They no longer make the Ford Ranger. That has been discontinued. So now the only players in the small truck market is actually Chevrolet. If you think about it from the American side, Dodge, before they split off with Ram, discontinued the Dakota, which wasn't really a small pickup truck at that. It was kind of in between Chevy's small truck and the big boy trucks that everyone else makes. But they discontinued it. So the only two players that are in the game that are neck and neck all the time are Toyota's Tacoma pickup truck, the small little one, and Chevrolet's Colorado and GMC's Canyon. And if you want to count them, I guess, even though they're not really that great with trucks, is Nissan. I forgot what the little truck's called. I know the big boy is the Titan. The Frontier, that would be their small pickup truck. But the interesting thing too, so first off, this new truck isn't due to any time before 2014. You will not see it in the U.S. at a dealership before 2014, and that's because GM is going to concentrate on the Silverado and the Sierra first before they bring the small trucks over. So that's guaranteed. But you're not also exactly sure what powertrains. You don't know if it's going to have a stick available. You don't know if it's going to have an automatic transmission available. You don't know if it's going to have a 2.4 liter inline 4 or a flex fuel engine, the ones that can run on E85 ethanol or regular gasoline. We don't know any of that. Not even the interior specs. You can probably guess that there's going to be OnStar, that there's going to be an infotainment system, the iPod auxiliary inputs, all that kind of good stuff. That's probably all going to be standard if you give or take, it not being a work truck. But for the most part, we really don't know what's going on. Actually, the other funny thing too is that we don't even know the name. GM has not confirmed the American truck's name. In fact, in other markets like South America, where the truck is right now, it's known as the S10, which the S10 was Chevrolet's truck that they made before the Colorado. The Colorado in 2004 was a brand new truck that replaced the Chevy S10. And I have a Chevy S10. I can say it's a very great truck, but it would be cool to see the S10 come back. Chevrolet has brought back a lot of older nameplates recently and refreshed them, like the Chevrolet Malibu, the Camaro, obviously the legend of the muscle cars. And the other one is the Impala. That car is still around. So they've brought a lot of older nameplates back and just put new badges. And here's some cool pictures of the vehicle. Here's one, and actually if you notice on the license plate, it says S10. So this picture is showing the truck in one of those emerging markets. This is an S10 known in South America. Even though here it will more likely probably be the Colorado, but for my own liking, I would love to see it as an S10. But here it is playing in the mud, probably a four-wheel drive, and you can see a lot of its aerodynamics. It's very, very curvy, whereas American cars tend to be more boxy. So they're going for aerodynamics, probably due to CAFE standards. Now, CAFE standards are the division of the government. It's an abbreviation for the division of the government that deals with the MPG ratings, the miles per gallon ratings. They call them CAFE standards. It's a division of the government that takes all the numbers. So let's say one car makes 36 miles average MPG. You take all those numbers and it has to equal a certain number. It's a big, huge, complicated factoring range that division takes care of the government. But you have to meet a certain standard of EPA range, of MPG ranges, I mean. And so, again, here's the front of the truck playing in the mud. That's an awesome picture. That's a very nice truck. I'm very glad to see it. Also, here is the back of it. And you can see a lot of styling cues, especially from the back. It's a small little truck, and you can see a lot of styling cues. Hence, like the rear lamps, they look very similar, actually almost identical to the ones that are currently on the current generation Silverado. Then you have like these little plastic ram bar light bar things in the back over here. I'm not sure what you would call those, but that looks a lot like the discontinuing Avalanche. Now the Chevrolet Avalanche will be discontinued after the 2013 model year, and you can see a lot of cues. This truck looks like it's taking cues from three different trucks. It looks like it's taking cues off of the Colorado. Its body form, I will say, its small little body form, but it's taking the back heavily off of the Silverado, the front off of maybe the Malibu or the new Impala, and the middle section kind of looks like the Chevrolet Avalanche. So it kind of looks like they just took the best of Chevy's lineup right now and kind of just smashed it into a little truck, but it works out really well. I think it's really great. And here's a picture shot of the interior. A really great interior. I mean, this is probably the best small truck. Chevy has always kind of lacklustered its smaller trucks and cars. You can tell the quality inside is cheap, hard plastic that looks like it's going to snap off any minute. And so this interior is really, really great. It looks like the inside of, you can still tell it's an economy car. It's not meant to be a high-end truck, but at the same time it has a lot of nice chrome features. Everything looks like it's very nice, very smooth. It probably has side airbags. That's probably going to be a standard in a couple of years, in the US at least. Other markets maybe not so much, but that's a great shot of the interior. Again, here's the outside of it playing in the mud. That's a great shot of that truck, so I'm very glad to see that truck in the emerging markets, and it will be here after 2014, probably as a 2014 model, but you make sure to remember that it will not be here before the Silverado and the new Sierra, which we will keep on tabs for you here, because I'm very excited to see those new two big boy trucks come out too. And our last story for today is, oh boy, recalls. It wouldn't be speed without recalls. And that would be for the 2010 Jeep Wrangler skid plate that may cause fire issues. Now here's a picture of the Jeep Wrangler. Kind of hard to tell because, to me, it looks like the Wrangler has never changed its form ever since 1988. That's the joke. If you put a 1988 model Wrangler next to a new one, it's kind of hard to tell the difference. But anyway, the problem is that following an investigation by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration into reports of the Jeep Wrangler catching fire. Now, Jeep has issued an official recall notice to all owners of a 2010 model year. The company changed the location of the Wrangler's catalytic converter to meet the new emission requirements. However, due to the design change underneath the body for the skid plates, debris could accumulate near the converter. Though the owner's manual actually does warn you to clear all of the debris near that area because it could potentially cause damages or overheating later. But Jeep has received at least 14 reports of fires due to the problem. Jeep will recall the affected models of the Wrangler and replace the skid plate with a skid bar, which was implemented as standard equipment in late 2010 to help save weight on the SUV. This design also prevents excessive debris buildup near the hot catalytic converter. And let me tell you, I have scars to prove how hot a catalytic converter is. That thing is extremely hot when it's after the car is on. The number of vehicles potentially affected by this recall alone is 67,872 models for the 2010 Jeep Wrangler year, equipped with automatic transmissions. It doesn't state anything about manuals, but I think I would play on the safe side. And if you own a 2010 Jeep Wrangler, you might want to call in, regardless of whether it's a automatic or a manual, you might want to take it in just in case to get that checked out. You never know if it's anything, but it specifically states automatic transmissions for the 2010 model year of Jeep Wrangler. And again, here's a picture really quick of the 2010 Jeep Wrangler, as it is an off-roading vehicle. And that will do it for this week's episode of Speed right here on the B3 Radio Network. Don't forget, you can call us anytime you want and leave a voicemail at 626-532-7154. Or you can email the show anytime you want at speedradio b3@yahoo.com. Or check out the website since you're already online, right? At b3radionetwork.webs.com. That's b3radionetwork.webs.com. And from there, you can also subscribe to our podcast feed via YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Twitter, and yeah, that's right, blip.tv. I'm your host, Brian Von Barrios. Thank you for watching this episode of Speed, the only show about cars, trucks, motorcycles, and ATVs. We'll be back next week. This is the B3 Radio Network, Southern California's internet talk station.
This has been a presentation of the B3 Radio Network, a division of B3 Production Studios, a Brian Von Barrios Multimedia Filming Corporation. Visit us online at b3radionetwork.webs.com. Subscribe to our podcast feed on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Twitter, and blip.tv. This is the B3 Radio Network, Southern California's internet talk station.